Today's video is sponsored by Hubble.
Plant-based bacon has been a staple in the show since the very beginning. I feel like I have tried to make literally every kind of plant-based bacon available, and I really have tried dozens and dozens of commercial plant-based bacons. Recently, I came across a bacon from Hooray Foods. They're a startup based out of San Francisco, and it doesn't look like their veggie bacon is nationwide yet. Now, just after looking at their website, they have their ingredients list, and the ingredients list looks incredibly simple. They're not using anything complicated. I did a little research to see if I can find some nutrition info, to see if I can figure out how they're making this and see if I can make it at home. Couldn't really find much. The only thing that I found was an interview with one of the creators saying that they're about 20% fat. So we have one starting point along with the ingredients. I just want to see if we can make something close. Until these guys get nationwide and everybody can buy it, let's see if we can figure out how to make this recipe at home. So the very first ingredient of this bacon is coconut oil. Now, coconut oil is 1 gram of fat per gram of coconut oil, so we're gonna be able to really easily figure out exactly how much coconut oil we have. Now, the rest of the ingredients are listed as rice flour. Now, I'm not sure if they're using just a standard stone ground white flour or if they're using a glutinous rice flour. So we're gonna do some testing on that. And then they're also using a tapioca flour. So we have some tapioca starch. And then for their flavoring, they have maple syrup, liquid smoke, mushroom extract. I'm almost positive this is exactly what they're using because their ingredients label lists mushrooms, mushroom extract, and like a salt, which is exactly the same makeup as this mushroom extract that I use. And then beet extract. So I'm just gonna be using some beetroot powder. These, like I said, are all things that they've used in the past. Let's mix up a few things, see how they mix, see how they bind, and we're gonna see how they cook. So before we flavor anything, let's mess with a little bit of tapioca starch and rice flour and tapioca starch and glutinous rice flour with a 20% oil mix and cook it up and see if we get like a crisp, if we get any binding, see if we get anything like bacon, I don't know. So the very first thing that I wanna do is I'm gonna get about 20 grams of coconut oil, about 60 grams of white rice flour, 20 grams of tapioca starch. Actually, I'm gonna do about 15 grams of tapioca starch because I would like to leave the rest for flavoring. Now I'm just gonna kind of quickly mix this in. Now, at this point, we have a pretty incredibly crumbly mixture. There's no way to slice this. There's no way to cut this into a bacon. Now, there's no flavoring here, so a little bit of that liquid might help, but I don't think that's where they're going. I'm gonna kind of just throw this over a pot of boiling water, kind of like double boil it, and see if that heat will help bind some of those starches, the tapioca starch. I'm also gonna get another small bowl ready with the coconut oil, tapioca flour, and some of the glutinous rice flour and see how that comes together as well. I have a feeling that it's gonna be the glutinous rice flour that creates the texture that we're looking for. I honestly think that's what they're using, but we'll find out here in a minute. So we're already starting to get some steam, but let's see if we can kind of just work this together. Okay, so after about 20 minutes or so on the heat, there wasn't any big major texture differences with just the standard rice flour. It still just kind of falls apart. We're not forming anything that's very bindy. I thought the tapioca starch might have enough to bind this, but even with any amount of pressure, we're not getting anything that's gonna be very feasible. So for this version, we're actually gonna create 2 individual doughs and form them together. I think this one might be the actual trick. So gang, I want to tell you a little bit about today's sponsor, Hubble. Hubble asked me about wearing some of their contacts, but unfortunately, because of my crazy eyes, I am actually not a candidate for contacts. So you're always gonna see me in these glasses. But Monica wears contacts on a daily basis, so she's gonna talk to you about today's sponsor, Hubble.
Hubble is a new brand of contact lenses founded to offer you the high quality, affordable lenses you deserve. So I spend about $60 a month on contact lenses. And in the past, I've definitely had to ration them out and reuse them. So thanks to Hubble, you can get daily contacts at a price that you can afford. Hubble made it incredibly easy to sign up. They asked me questions about my eyes, how often I wore contacts, about my contact habits. They were able to send me incredibly affordable contacts that met my daily needs. Hubble cuts out the middleman by selling directly to you. You can get quality daily lenses for a fraction of the cost of the other guys. Optometrists agree that daily lenses are healthier for your eyes. Problem is, daily lenses are typically more expensive before Hubble. Now you can actually afford to wear a fresh pair every day, and you'll avoid damaging your eyes by reusing lenses. Want daily contacts at a price you can afford? Click my link below. You'll get 2 weeks of daily lenses shipped straight to your door for just $1. That's 30 contacts for just $1.
Thanks, Hubble.
Thanks, Hubble.
So for the flavor broth, I know that the beetroot's mostly for color, so I want to start with what I think is the main flavor components. The mushroom extract, which I want to do about 10 grams of. I'll do about 1 part, so about 1 gram of the liquid smoke, and then 5 parts of maple syrup. And then we'll just swirl in just a little bit, less than a gram, just a touch of the beetroot just for color. Just gonna give this a quick whisk and see if we have the magic right. I think we do. We'll say it smells very bacony. Ooh, wow, that's dang good. Wow. Now we're going to take our sauce mixture. We're gonna add about 20 grams of coconut oil to that sauce mixture. Whisk that up. And then 20 grams of tapioca starch. Drop that in and whisk these together. And then you should end up with a pretty thick, kind of gummy, gooey consistency. Now all we're gonna do is just kind of set this aside. I'm gonna kind of leave a little bit of that tapioca and a little bit of that flavoring on this handle so that way it kind of gets mixed in. We're just gonna set this aside. I'm gonna throw this in the fridge while we're doing the rest. Now in this bowl we have 1 cup or 100 grams of glutinous rice flour, along with 1 cup of water. Let's go ahead and whisk this together. It's okay that I'm adding a little bit of the flavor to it. And then all I'm gonna do is just cover this guy up and microwave it for 30-second increments, mixing it for about 3.5 minutes until it forms a solid, stretchy, really hot dough ball. Now, if you've ever seen me make mochi, this is a fairly easy recipe. Now, if you've ever seen me make mochi, you know exactly what I'm doing. We're just trying to combine this down until it's a thick dough ball. And you just gotta kind of keep mixing, and you'll start to slowly see this come together. So while that's microwaving up, I'm just gonna take out a sheet pan, and we're gonna dust it with a bit of glutinous flour. Just make sure it's nice and covered. Got some glutinous flour on my hands to make sure that is all nice and set. This looks pretty good. I think this is what they're doing. So all I'm gonna do is just kind of dump this sticky dough ball onto this floured surface here. Get as much off as I can. Make sure it's completely covered in this. Same thing on this rolling pin. Let's see if we can get this rolled out fairly flat. Now that we have this flat, I'm gonna take out this firmed up flavor and spread it across the top of this. The way this firmed up really gives me some hope. And then all I'm gonna do is just kind of spread this stuff out evenly as I can get it. This has to be one of the weirdest combinations of a bacon recipe that I've tried. We'll definitely see how this one comes out. If it does, I will say it tastes good. That bacon, that broth with that mushroom seasoning really, really kind of nails it in my book. So at this point, what I'm gonna try to do is just fold this up into an area to where we can slice off some like bacon slices. So at this point, this is kind of a mess. I'm gonna get it wrapped pretty tightly in a large piece of parchment paper. I'm gonna see if I can get it transferred in one piece. I don't know. Now all I'm gonna do is just kind of wrap this tightly, as tight as I can get it. And then we're gonna drop this off in the freezer, let it firm up. The mochi should firm up solid, the coconut oil should firm up solid, the tapioca should firm up, should all firm up pretty solid. We should have a very streaky kind of thing when we're done that hopefully we can get some slices off of. Now here is our mochi, our rice flour kind of cake bacon. Now this one, I'm hoping that this one's able to stay together. I took it out of the freezer just a minute ago, just to kind of like soften up a little bit, because right now, this is like a brick. So I'm gonna try to slice this. I wanna see if I can get bacon slices to be able to fry up. We might have to let this cool down a little first. I'm gonna try the same thing on this side. Just see if I can get like a clean edge. So we're able to get a cleaner edge here, and you can kind of see, I mean, that's looking pretty good. Got a little better piece. This one might be a little bit better. I mean, and I'll say, I mean, honestly, if these come out, this could be pretty great, but we'll just have to see. I'm gonna throw them in oil and see if that will like crisp them up. I'm thinking that might be the thing that helps. Smell of bacon though is wild. It's so wild how much these smell like bacon. I'm also gonna just try just a really thin one and see what happens. This one's very almost bacon-like. I think having that oil in there is really gonna help it. Oh, just like real bacon, I just ripped this. So I think the key for this to really work is like thinness is key, because like these are a little thicker here, and these thick ones still just have kind of like that mochi stretch. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal. And It tastes like bacon. Now, I think I figured out the trick is it's low heat, and this piece, it's low heat, cut thin enough, but also thick enough to where there's some like fat meatiness to it with a decent amount of oil. Now, I would say if I were to make these again, I would probably add some tapioca starch all the way through, and then add a little bit of rice flour to the flavor mix, and probably add a little bit more flavoring. But cheers to one of the best bacons I've made, baby.
Okay.
It tastes like bacon, right?
It tastes like bacon. It has the crispiness, that little bit bite of chewiness to it. This is like one of the best things I've ever had. Like I just want to snack on it all day.
It's pretty wild. I mean, it's really wild, right?
Really wild.
Thanks, baby. You can see it a lot better. It really looks like bacon because of your Hubble contacts.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say out of all of the bacon that I've made that this one here is one of the better bacons. It is pretty wild. And it's pretty much just mochi. That's some dang good bacon. Make sure you click that link in the below for Hubble contacts.